Well, hello on this Thursday after a pretty wild evening across much of Minnesota. Two rounds of weather yesterday, hail and some heavy rain for parts of the area. And then, of course, the big story was all the wind. And we did have many severe wind gusts right through the heart of the Twin Cities. And 5 reports of tornadoes. Cottonwood County, 3 reports there. And also Brown County, right near New Ulm, spotters spotted a tornado. And then Tremont in Martin County as well. So 5 possible spots. And of course, the wind was the big deal. This is from my dad north of St. Croix Falls as the line of wind went through that area, which was after the Twin Cities. But pretty good gusts there. In fact, radar measurement right where he was about 70 miles an hour. So that was pretty common, anywhere from 50 to 70 plus mile per hour wind gusts. In fact, Shakopee had the highest gust within the metro area, 77 miles an hour. Hurricane force for sure. And a lot of rain too. In fact, over 2 inches of rain falling in a short period of time here across much of the East Metro, Ramsey County, but the highest amounts, Princeburg, off to the west, had over 5 inches of rain. So a lot of moisture out of this system too. So definitely don't need any more rain. Of course, it's been a wet spring before all this too. We do have a warm front sitting across southern Minnesota. It's the same frontal boundary that's been kind of moving around all through the week. This time it's just south of us, but it's going to lift north today, and that's going to bring in the heat and humidity and also be another focal point for just one of many boundaries we'll be looking at for storms. We do have some midday activity still going across central and east central Minnesota into western Wisconsin. This is north of the warm front. You can see those winds are out of the south, and it's basically riding the nose of this low-level jet. So the wind speeds are pretty high here. You go up 4,000 feet, anywhere from 50 to 60 miles an hour. And at the nose of that jet is where these storms are just really feeding off of. And so that's why the Storm Prediction Center watching that east central Minnesota, western Wisconsin into the early afternoon for this first round of activity today for maybe some hail and wind gusts. And so it's worth mentioning the difference between elevated and surface-based storms. These storms north of the warm front are elevated, so up and over somewhat cooler air, where the warmer surface air is further back. So when these storms develop further up, less likely to produce tornadoes because the base of the storm is higher, the instability is higher, but you want those surface-based storms more into the warm, humid air mass. That's where you get better chance of some tornadoes. So that's the difference roughly between elevated and surface-based storms. Heat, though, marching north, still a shot at 90 today if we can squeeze out enough sun, if that midday activity doesn't quite dampen the temperatures. Either way, it's going to be steamy, well into the 80s and humid. So a lot of places, though, in the southern third of Minnesota should reach 90 degrees today. And then it's going to be much more pleasant after the possible storms tonight. But dew points are going to really pool along that warm front in the 60s to even low 70s. Ample moisture for the next round of possible storms to take advantage of. And we are looking at that potential for more severe weather today, though I think the metro might be a little east of the biggest threat. We'll talk about that here. So we've got a surface low to the west, this warm frontal boundary here, but a cold front that's going to finally flush out the moisture, bring a very nice weekend, but it's also going to be the focal point for some of those storms. Surface low is across the western parts of Nebraska and Kansas, but we have an upper level low, which is the cool air aloft that brings in the instability. That's going to strengthen and deepen this low and kind of kick everything into gear here. So the Storm Prediction Center has a moderate risk. That's a level 4 out of 5 for the west central parts of Minnesota into the eastern Dakota. So that's west of the Twin Cities, but we're on the edge of the enhanced risk, that 3 out of 5. Best chance for tornadoes closer to that low, and also the best wind and hail threat is going to be closer to that too. So here's what we see the rest of the day. Those morning and midday thunderstorms kind of die out across northwestern Wisconsin, and then we're going to be watching storms to pop in Nebraska and South Dakota. And whatever holds together, that's the question mark. That's what's going to be eventually headed towards the Twin Cities, eastern Minnesota into western Wisconsin. If it falls apart, then we're out of the clear or we're in the clear for any severe weather. But here's the possible wind gusts. Definitely the severe wind gusts, eastern South Dakota, Nebraska, western Minnesota. But you can see as it moves east, those wind gusts die out perhaps a little bit. So we're going to be watching to see how intense those storms initially develop, and are they able to sustain themselves across basically 2 different states. Either way, they will have plenty of juice to work from. Upper 80s today, maybe 90. 90 is the record high again. Still warm tomorrow, but you'll notice the drop in humidity. Starting out sticky, muggy, drier by the afternoon, a beautiful weekend, and then comfortably cool, closer to where we should be some nice spring days early next week.